Welcome to Faith Talks Wood podcast. I'm Will from Flatwood Acres.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.
And we're a podcast talks about a little bit of everything. Tom, so as we're recording this, it's a couple days before Thanksgiving. And so this will come out next week. But I figured we'd start out real quick just saying, kind of some of the things we're thankful for. Like this year, what's this year brought? What are you thankful for? And, I'll start. I'm thankful to have the job I have that allows my wife to stay home with the kids. I see day in and day out how quickly maturing my kids are compared to other kids and how well behaved they are, and I'm thankful for that.
Amen. Yeah. I'm even though I don't like climbing ladders anymore, I'm very thankful for all the work I've had this year as well. But I would say that, a big thing that I prayed for years and that my daughter has worked for is going to PT school. And in this past year, she graduated last December with her bachelor's and got accepted on first try into a PT program, which happens. But it's also very common to get rejected and have to apply to 4 or 5 schools and apply second, third round, and for her to get accepted in, and she is just thriving in PT school. Like, she's working her butt off, but she loves it. And I'm so thankful because, she's wanted to do this since she was 12, but you could just tell that this is what God had planned for her. And she has just stepped into it, and just very, very thankful that she got in here because I could not have afforded to pay for housing and utilities and food and everything in another city. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's school is expensive. You'll have to tell your daughter when you see her tonight or whenever. I pulled my deltoid. That's what it is. She should know what that is. I think I told you about a couple weeks ago, and it's fine now, but it's the muscle on your arm right here from running a chainsaw for several hours. I'm a banker, and
Yeah.
and so I pulled that, and I'm going to say some stuff here that people that may not agree with. So we have a physical therapist that goes to our church. She's phenomenal. She owns her own clinic. She's actually for kids. Like, she has a clinic for what do you call that? Like a youth physical therapist or
pediatric.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. And so she's a pediatric physical therapist, and but she's been doing it forever. And I asked her when we get church about it. I said, it's right here. It's when I do this. And she'll go, oh, yeah, that's your delt. That's probably from, I told her it's from chainsaw. She'll go, oh, yeah, that's common. And she said that, icy hot, keep it easy. Don't do anything to really stress it out. But I'll tell you something. We, years ago, you'll laugh at this. A friend of mine, whoever's in his wife's family, they're always into selling snake oils. I say that, not snake oils, but they're always into buy this. They're selling Avon, or they're selling, here's this new product, or here. They're always doing that kind of stuff. Well, this is, we first got married a decade ago. She was selling CBD cream for it's like icy hot, but CBD. It doesn't have THCs in it, so it's not getting you high or anything like that. And so we bought some from her to be cordial and to be nice. Okay, yeah, sure, whatever. We'll buy some from you. But by golly, if that stuff didn't work really well,
yeah,
it just worked really well. And so we had used it all up after a year or so, a couple years or whatever. And I think I'd hurt my back a couple years ago. And so I said to my wife, I wish we had some of that. We called it pot cream. So I said to her, I wish I had some of that pot cream because that stuff worked really well. Icy hot wasn't really cutting it. And so we found some and we bought it. And so my arm was killing me from pulling my delt. And I talked to the lady at church, and she said just to keep it easy or whatnot. And so I thought, hey, we still got some of that pot cream in the in the bathroom. And so I got that stuff out, and for 3 or 4 days in a row, every night I put some on my arm, and now my arm's fine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying it's like, magic or anything like that, but it's good stuff. So anyways, for
The
anybody,
thing is we have this modern medical system that, while some of it's good, there's a lot of it that's not. And, if you go back 2,000 years, uh, Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food.
right,
And all the medicines came from plants.
right.
I mean, God gave us everything we needed. And so it doesn't surprise me. I've not used that stuff, but a lot of the natural
Right.
healers from plants and stuff are miraculous.
Yeah, and the stuff that we bought is like all natural. It's got all the kinds of different essential oils in it, and the hemp oil and all that stuff. And it's got natural. What's the not methanol? That's the wrong word. But like the icy hot feel.
Oh, well,
Is it menthol?
yeah.
One of those, anyways. And so, funny story about that stuff. My wife,
Menthol.
menthol, yeah. We we got that stuff from years ago when we first got married, and so I was a youth pastor, and so we'd always play youth group games and stuff. And my wife was a nurse on her feet every day, and she had tweaked her back. Uh, probably just on her feet all day. Come to youth group, we play games, or I don't know what it was. And so she said, "Hey, can you put some of that stuff on my back, my lower back for me?" Sure. Well, I was a bit too liberal with it, and I thought she was gonna die because she's like, "This stuff is burning. It's gonna burn a hole through my skin." And so I'd like wipe it off with like a wet towel, and like it was the funniest thing. And it's not right away, right? It's like you put it on there, and like 5-10 minutes later, it's like, "Whoa, this stuff's working." So, anyways, never thought we'd be talking about pot cream on the podcast,
That's funny. I've never heard it
but
called
yeah,
that.
yeah. But I also, I I was in your kindred spirit today, Tom. So this afternoon I was working on audit stuff. I told you about that. This morning, so we have it all at my bank. We got 12 branches, and at every branch there's a sign out front, and it's got an LED, double-sided LED digital sign underneath the like logo sign, right?
Yeah.
And the company, you've probably heard of Watchfire. You ever heard of Watchfire? They're a big sign LED company, Spectrio, any
No.
of those companies.
No.
Anyways, um, the software that runs the sign, we're not impressed with. And so we use another company to do like our digital rate boards and all the like the signage and the branches and stuff like that. And they're a really good company. Great company based out of Pittsburgh. And so I reached out to them. I'm getting budget ready, and I said, "Hey, I'd love to have you guys take over these road signs," because they told me when we first went with them on other stuff that they could do that. And so I had to reschedule a couple different times, and finally I was able to open some time up this morning. They came up from Pittsburgh, which is about 2 hours away, and I was outside climbing on a ladder trying to figure out how to take down panels of an LED wall. So we could get to the controller behind him. So we went to like 3 different branches and, um, looked at all that. But anyways, I thought you'd find that. I
Yeah.
was I was I was on ladder messing with signs. I was in my Tom mode.
Very cool.
But
Well,
but you've never done like digital signage, right? That's not your
only pre-made ones where we just install it type
hang
thing.
it or whatever.
Yeah. But I don't fabricate any. Like if I sell a set of channel letters, I have a company that makes them all. And
Which channel letter? What's that?
so if you go to a shopping center and the letters stand off of the building and
Oh yeah, yeah.
they're lit up,
Yep.
That's what we call channel letters. And there's
Okay.
a box that they're mounted to, and inside that's all the electronics and stuff. But I just have a company make it, and I mark it up 20%, make a little
And hang it
cut,
up.
hang
Yep.
it up. But yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Well, let's get into we're gonna finish Colossians today, and then I think you and I talk. We're gonna go to Philippians next,
yeah,
right?
man,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm excited for that. Colossians has been great. I'm looking forward to Philippians, but we still got chapter 4 to finish up today, and there's some good stuff in here. So I want to say thank you to the patron supporters. We appreciate you guys. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can do so over at patreon.com/Faith Talks Wood. And I must say, I actually have shop talk today. So you want to hang around after we do our Bible study, and you get to hear a little bit of shop talk that you haven't heard from Will in a while. So there you have it. All right. So Colossians chapter 4. Last week we did chapter 3. Um, we talked about wives submitting to your husband, and we talked about that word submit was kind of um, uh, like an army. Like you fall in the line, not because the person's better than you, but because you're following order and protection on how things are designed. And so militant, that's the word I was looking for. So chapter 4, the first part of it, because of how chapters and stuff are laid out, it kind of finishes the comments, if you will, from the chapter 3. So I'm going to go ahead and read down through verse 6, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll do 7 through the end of the chapter. So, all right, Colossians 4. Masters, be just and fair to your slaves. Remember that you also have a master in heaven. Devote yourselves to prayer with an alert mind and thankful heart. Pray for us too that God will give us many opportunities to speak about his mysterious plan concerning Christ. That is why I'm here in chains. Pray that I will proclaim this message as clearly as I should. Live wisely among those who are not believers and make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation be gracious and attractive so that you will have the right response for everyone. So, verse 1, it's tailing from slaves obey your master and stuff like that, and masters be just and fair to your slave. We have a hard time in current context and culture to understand that. We think of slave, we think of the westernized slaves of, the African slave trade and all that kind of stuff. Different culture back then, but it reminds us that we also, whether you're, um, you know, a manager, a high-ranking executive in a corporation, or you are a supervisor, or just a parent, you also have a master that you have to obey, and that is God. And so it's humbling to remember that to treat your people fair. And then this whole section, man, 2 through 6 is just packed full. Devote yourselves to prayer with an alert mind and thankful heart. Alert mind is interesting. Always want to be thankful. Paul talks a lot about being thankful. Pray with thanksgiving and stuff like that. But an alert mind. And when I think about that, I think about, the reality that culture is trying to divert us and trying to pull us all these different ways, and it wants us to be distracted. And having an alert mind is going to allow us to be attentive to the Spirit. And when we're attentive to the Spirit of God, it will work through you. And when you're paying attention to it, it'll work through you. And so when we're not alert, when we're, just on autopilot, as what I think a lot of people do, um, And then we can be distracted easily, and we can let things that aren't important uh, fill our mind, and that's we do not want that. Um, and then pray for us too that God will give us many opportunities to speak about His mysterious plan concerning Christ. I love the opportunities that I get at work or wherever I'm at to talk about my faith. I'm an extrovert. I'm very much always looking for an opportunity to talk about my faith, and always bringing it up in conversations that I have with people. Whether that's just letting them know that like I'm a Christian, that they ask like, "What are you into?" Well, I've been playing drums my whole life. Oh, you in a band? No, no, I play on worship team at church. Whatever that may look like, to open up the opportunity to maybe, have that conversation of faith and talk to people. Um, and then Paul says that's why I'm in chains, and he's in prison, right? And so he's bound because of his belief. Which unfortunately I feel like maybe not in my lifetime or your lifetime, Tom, but maybe in our kid's lifetime, my kid's lifetime, that may become a thing. Uh, the way culture's going and how anti-Christian it is, it wouldn't surprise me in the next 100 years, 50 to 100 years, if that's a thing. Um, and then, pray that I should proclaim the message as clearly as I should. There's something to be said about having a clear understanding of the gospel and being able to articulate it. That doesn't mean that you have to be an evangelist and you have to go out and beat people over the head and that you have to have like every answer for everything. But having a reason for the hope that is within you is an important thing for us. Um, and then live wisely among those who are not believers, to make every opportunity. Let your conversations be gracious and attractive so that you will have the right response for everyone. Um, if you're listening to this and you're a Christian, my encouragement and challenge to you is that you live out your faith, because there's this lukewarm Christian thing that's out there that like, oh, you think because you go to church that you're good or whatever the case may be. And it's really dangerous because the world sees that, and people aren't dumb. They can see through the BS, if you will, and they're going to see through that, and they're going to, not have you won't have the opportunity to talk to them, because they're going to see like, oh, there's Will just cussing up a storm and gossiping and all of this, he's mean, he talks bad to people and down to people. You're never going to have an opportunity to talk about your faith because you're not living it out. Um, and let your conversation be gracious and attractive, meaning that people come to you and confide in you, that they want to talk to you. You're attractive, not in the sense of like, your looks, but your personality. People are hungry for Christ. And when they see Christ in you, you're fulfilling something in them that is attractive, and they want to understand and want to know more about it. And so that's my thoughts on that. There's a lot of stuff there, and I kind of just broke it all down. But any thoughts on that, Tom?
Oh man, yeah. That for just a few verses, it is jam packed. And I tell you, the first part there: devote yourself to prayer with an alert mind and a thankful heart. Excuse me. So, quite often, I get up in the morning. First thing I do is, brush my teeth, go to the bathroom, go and make a pot of coffee, drink a bottle of water, and then I throw on a headset and I put on praise and worship music. And I do that for two reasons. One, I stretch while I am waiting for the coffee to make, and I have a routine of stretches, and so loosens up my body. 'Cause you get old after a not long night's sleep, your back hurts a little bit, things are stiff. So, and the other reason I listen to praise and worship music, I could choose to, while I'm stretching, listen to something else. But the reason I listen to praise and worship music is to prepare my heart for prayer. Because I wake up in the morning and I'm going to admit, I'm not thinking about God. I'm thinking about, all right, I got to get this done. I got to get that done. We got to do this today. Got to, and sometimes the last thing on my mind is actually God. And I'm embarrassed to say that. I wish it was always the first thing. Before I get out of bed, I do say a quick prayer. It's like, all right, God, let's get up and do this day together, type thing. But then after I'm done stretching, and I'll go, and I've got a same place that I pray, and I pray on my knees. It doesn't matter if you pray on your knees or sit or stand. God doesn't care. I just like to. It kind of brings me to a place of reverence. But often I'll kneel down, and my mind is thinking about other things. And so I'm there to pray. I'm there to talk to God. And yet my mind is still thinking about all the signs I have to install, the materials I got to go pick up, the grass has got to be mowed, da, 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 and so on and so on. And I have to literally sometimes sit there and say, Lord, my mind is all over the place. Calm my mind, clear my thoughts, bring me into your presence, and to have an alert mind, to have a conversation with him, and to pray about the things that he wants me to pray about. And so quite often, we go to God, and it's like, all right, God, help me to get this bus wrap done today. Lord, help me to get this, project built in the shop. Help me to do this. And it's all about me, 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 me. Like God's a vending machine, and I'm just selecting the answers and the request of help that I want for the day. And then, but then I go to God, and I'm like, I have a blank mind, and I don't know what to pray about. Like sometimes that's literally, it's like, all right, God, I'm here to talk to you. And I literally, I don't know what to ask you for. I don't know who to pray for. Tell me who you want me to pray for. And guys, like, people will start to pop into my mind, situations that other friends are going through, and he will bring to your mind what he wants to talk to you about. And but you have to go to him and really be intentional about devoting yourself to prayer with an alert mind, and also with a thankful heart. I always try to find something to say thanks for, because even in the worst of times, there's something that we could be thankful for. And so it just sets your heart in that right posture. The next part there is pray for us too, that God will give us many opportunities to speak about his mysterious plan concerning Christ. And that's why I'm here in chains. Paul's there in prison in chains. But man, he's still about the Lord's work. Like, he's in the worst of circumstances, and people know exactly who he is, what he's all about. There's no questions asked. And I think that verse really ties in down there to 5 and 6, where it says, live wisely among those who are not believers and make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation be gracious and attractive so that you have the right response for everyone. So quite often, as Christians, we go to church on Sunday, and we zoom out of church and go watch our favorite NFL team. And so we're in there praising God at 9 a.m. or 11 a.m., whatever time your church service is. Then at 1 p.m., we're cussing at the TV because our quarterback made a bad throw. I don't really watch the NFL anymore, but that used to be me. And I know a lot of guys that's them. If you were around them at first thing on Sunday morning, you would know they're a Christian. But if you're around them with their buddies watching the game, you'd be like, does that guy really know God? And so remember, we are called to be a light. Now, there is nothing wrong with watching the NFL. There is something wrong with going and screaming and yelling and cussing at the TV about a game that will not change your life, whether they win or lose. Does not matter. But man, you could go there and be the guy that's not getting drunk at the game party, be the guy that's not cussing at the game party, be the guy that's not making rude, crude comments about women at the game party. You can be the one that's totally different and people will recognize it. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, why aren't you having another drink? Well, I've had one and then, I don't like to get drunk, and well, weren't you upset at the play? Well, it doesn't affect my life. I just enjoy watching the game and the athleticism and, let your conversation be gracious and attractive. Same thing at work, anywhere else you're at. It's an opportunity for us to shine and be the light in a dark place. So I really recommend you commit that verse down there, 5 and 6 to memory, because it is just a great reminder to have that stored up in your heart to keep your conversation gracious and attractive.
Absolutely. I was just thinking, you said something about, having your mind clear before you pray. 2 Timothy 1:7. Now, the NLT doesn't say it the way that I'm used to it or that I know it. I'll read in the NLT, and then I'll tell you what it says in the New King James. So 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. The New King James
Says of a
says that
sound
God,
mind, doesn't it?
yep,
Yep.
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 So God's not giving us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind.
Yep.
I think that's a great way to translate that, even though I haven't looked up the Greek to see what it actually says. But that idea of sound mind, you think of sound as noise, but it's interesting. I sleep with white noise because my ears ring. I've been playing drums and, quiet, but anyways, I sleep with white noise. And I think of white noise as having that sound mind. It's just like, okay, there's nothing else there. It's just, I don't know. It's when you put white noise on, and it doesn't take long for me to be like, all right, it's time to get to sleep, Um, but yeah, a lot of good stuff there. All right, I'm going to read the rest of the chapter here, and then we'll talk some about it. It's kind of Paul's final peace out, but let's read through it and we'll go from there. Starting at verse 7. Titus will give you a full report about how I am getting along. He is a beloved brother and a faithful helper who serves with me in the Lord's work. I've sent him to you for this very purpose, to let you know how we are doing and to encourage you. I am also sending Onesimus, a faithful and beloved brother, one of your own people. He and Titus will tell you everything that's happening here. Articus, who is in prison with me, sends you his greetings, and so does Mark, Barnabas' cousin. As you were instructed before, make Mark welcome if he comes your way. Jesus, the one who is also called Justice, also sends his greetings. There are only Jewish believers among my coworkers. These are the only Jewish believers among my coworkers. They are working with me here for the kingdom of God. And what a comfort they have been. Epaphras, a member of your own fellowship and servant of Christ Jesus, sends you his greetings. He always prays earnestly for you, asking God to make you strong and perfect, fully confident that you are following the whole will of God. I can assure you that he prays hard for you and also for the believers in Laodicea and Hierapolis. Luke, the beloved doctor, sends his greetings, and so does Demas. Please give my greetings to our brothers and sisters at Laodicea, and to Nympha and the church that meets in her house. After you read this letter, pass it on to the church in Laodicea so they can read it too. And you should read this letter I wrote to them. And say to Archippus, be sure to carry out the ministry the Lord gave you. Here is my greeting in my own hand, writing Paul. Remember my chains. May God's grace be with you. A lot here, but it's a lot of Paul, handing off the mission and saying, hey, remember me, and kind of going through his final greeting as he does in a lot of his letters. I don't have too much to comment on this. I mean, it kind of says itself, the verse 12, 13 about Epaphras praying. And, I can assure you that he prays hard for you. Man, who are you praying hard for? That's a good question. But you have any thoughts on this, Tom?
Yeah, it's mainly that same section there. He always prays earnestly for you, asking for God to make you strong and perfect, fully confident that you are following the whole will of God. I can assure you that he prays hard for you. And of course, we went back to verse 2, devote yourselves to prayer. So when I think about earnestly, it's like intentionality, like intentionally praying. And so, earlier I talked about sometimes I go to pray and my mind's all over the place thinking about the things I need to do. Sometimes I go to pray and my mind is blank and I literally can't think of who I need to pray for. So I'm going to tell you what the two things I do for those two scenarios. One, sometime when I've got so much on my mind, the to-do list of things I need to get done, I literally take a notepad with me to the couch where I kneel and pray. And, all right, God, tell me what I need to do today. And so I start to, what's the most important? And I make my to-do list there with God. And so and then what that does, it clears all that crap out of my mind. The other thing I do is I keep a prayer journal and I carry it with me everywhere I go. It's with my Bible. And because you ever like go to men's group or go to church and, one of your brothers says, man, I'm struggling with this. I need you to pray for me. And you pray right there, but then you kind of forget about it. And so what I do is I write it down in my prayer journal so that then I can be earnestly praying. I can pray hard. I could devote myself to prayer for that person. And I pray over and over and over, not necessarily every single morning and every single night, or not necessarily every day, but multiple times a week. There's some things like a friend of mine, Pastor Will, that goes to my church, his dad's been going through chemo and cancer. And I have prayed for him every single day since I found out about it. And I know that I'm not the only one. I believe there's a team of us that are doing that, and we're earnestly seeking God to reverse this cancer. And so he's gone through round 1 of chemo. The tumors have shrunk in half. The doctor is still telling him it gave him 20 months to live. And so I've been praying, God, make a mockery out of the 20-month prediction from the doctor and let it be 20 years. Prove that you're more powerful than modern medicine. And I'm going to keep praying day in and day out until that cancer is 100% gone. And that's what it is to pray earnestly for something that aches on your heart for somebody. Because if you ever met Bill, he's just a fantastic dude. And Bill is Will's dad. And Will's a fantastic dude and great friend of mine. Another brother of mine injured his knee. So I've been praying and praying and praying over and over. And so sometimes you kind of forget about that, or at least I do. So that's why I make a prayer journal. So I open it up when I'm praying, and then I kind of have my list of things that I just want to be intentional about approaching the throne of God. And so if you're like me and don't have the best memory, make a little journal, just a little notebook and things you want to pray with and be intentional on them. And the second thing I do with that journal is when a prayer gets answered, I highlight it. And the reason I highlight it is because then there are days where I'm not going to lie. There are days where I'm like, I just don't feel the presence of God. I'm like, are you there, God? And then I can open up that journal when I'm praying, and it's just a reminder of all the times he's answered, all the prayers he's answered over and over. And then there's some in there that never get highlighted because the person never tells me the answer. Maybe they move away, you lose touch with the person, and you don't know the outcome. But I still believe it got answered in God's will, whatever the was. But yeah, man. So I strongly, if you don't have a regular prayer life and aren't intentional about it, maybe you think that 5 minutes is a long time. Start with 1 minute every day at the same time, and then it will quickly grow. And before you know it, you'll be on your knees for 20, 30 minutes and don't even realize it. But the last thing was that just stood out to me at the end. He goes, remember my chains. And I'm like, and I just thought about it and thought about it. I'm like, well, what was he meaning by remember my chains? And to me, it said, remember, even when I was in chains here in prison, I was still seeking after the Lord. I was still praying for you guys. I was still checking up on you. And so no matter how bad my circumstances are, I was still concerned about the kingdom. And so, yeah, man.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's been a good letter. I'm excited to jump into Philippians. It's gonna be good. I flipped over to Philippians, and I saw some highlights that I had in there. I'm excited to talk about some of this stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's a great book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, man,
So
I was excited. I saw you making some sawdust on some photos, and that's a pretty cool project you made for your church, man. Tell us about it.
yeah. Before I tell you about that, I have to say thank you, Tom, because you learned me something that allowed me to have conversation with somebody today.
Oh, really?
So yeah, and you'll laugh at this. So one of the things I love is I love people, and I love making connections with people. I think it's a spiritual gift, if I'm honest with you. Is that I'll notice something on somebody and I'll comment about it, whether it's a watch, I like watches or whatever it is. And I was working with these sign guys today, and the one guy was wearing Lems. And I'd never heard of Lems until you said something about them.
Yeah.
And I started looking them up and whatnot. And I commented about them. I says, yeah, I've got a buddy that loves Lems. He won't wear anything but them. And he just went off about, oh my gosh, I love these so much. My wife gets me a new pair every year because I wear them out. And
Yeah. And so speaking of a new pair every year, so I buy like every Thanksgiving, they typically have a 20% off. Right now it's 25. And so every Black Friday, I order me another. I wear the model called Boulder boots, and so I order me another pair so that they're ready when the ones I'm wearing wear out. And then they do a sale on Memorial Day weekend as well, and so that's usually when I'll buy the ones I wear in the summertime. And so, if you like limbs or if you want to try them, this is the week to buy them. It goes through Sunday and it's 25% off. So, yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So, anyways, I was able to make a connection with somebody because I knew what Lems were, and he was surprised that I knew what Lems were. he was like really surprised. He's like, not a lot of people know what these are.
It's a
And then he
small
asked me, "Are
company.
you a?" Yeah, he said, "Are you a runner?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not a runner, but one of the guys that works for me is a marathon runner, and a good friend of mine is a runner." Speaking of you,
Yep.
and so, but yeah, he does like marathons, I guess, and stuff. But during the week, he wears Lems every day.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
They're
pretty
just
cool.
so the reason you asked were you a runner, because big in the running community are shoes or companies like Alta, um, Topo, Limbs, and there's a few others that make wide toe boxes. And the point
Right,
is to let your toes spread out naturally the way God intended them. Now,
right,
none of those companies, I think, know a thing about God. They're most of them are probably not. But they do want to understand one thing: when God created our feet, He didn't take a pair of Nikes and squish our toes in them. We walked around bare feet in the garden, and and then sandals and so that's big in the running community, particularly when you run long distances. If for me, now some people have narrow, skinny feet and they can get away with wearing Nikes or stuff like that, but most people crunch their toes into their shoes, and
right.
you really want your toes to be able to spread out, and keeps you from getting blisters, gives you a wider base of support, and so yeah, that's why I would probably say 90% of the people that wear limbs. How I found about them was from my sister-in-law, and she used to work at a running store, and she's ran a bunch of marathons and stuff, and so, but they're crazy comfortable. So
Yeah. So, anywho, yeah. So shop talk. So I told you a little before we hit record, but Saturday, what did I do Saturday? So Saturday, my wife got up super early, went go shopping, and then I delivered a Bible that I had rebound. I sent you pictures of that, I think.
yeah.
Um,
So was she excited?
oh my gosh, yeah, it was cool to see her reaction and whatnot.
That's awesome.
Um, but did that, and then she's on the other side of the county. She's about 20 miles away from me, and I delivered it to her because in her town where she's at, there is a leather like it's a tack, a lady that does tack for like horses and stuff, makes custom stuff, but she'll sell me pieces of leather at cost. And she has nice stuff. And so I always, if I'm over that way, I always try to get in there and get leather. Anyways, get home and I tell my wife, I said, "Yeah, I gotta clean the shop." Because she wanted me to get Christmas stuff out of the attic. Well, the attic, you get to the attic through the garage, which is my shop, and my assembly outfeed table was full of it's a catch-all. It's a flat surface. I mean, it just becomes a catch-all for everything. And when I get the Christmas stuff out of the attic, I always put it on the outfeed table because it's right next to the ladder that comes down. And so it's just a natural good place to put that stuff. And I was like, I gotta clean this. And my problem is, I bet a lot of guys have this, is paralysis of analysis. I don't know where to start with cleaning. I am a lot of things. I'm a natural leader. I'm somebody that can, lead meetings. I'm somebody that can lead people. I can teach. I'm not an organized person. That's just not my this is not my thing. I know that about me. And I'm not good about, making homes for places or, whatever. But my wife is. And so she put Olivia down for her afternoon nap, and she came out in the shop and spent like an hour out there with me just getting stuff cleaned up. We threw a whole 55-gallon garbage bag full of stuff away, just all the stuff. And so sweep the floor, everything. I mean, it was just everything was like, wow. So naturally, when you have a clean shop, what do you want to do? You
Make
want to make
something.
something. Oh, yeah. Your shop's clean. You're like, man, I want to make something. And so a few weeks ago, one of the deacons at church came to me. And so we take communion every week at church. I believe that the Bible, clearly states, Jesus says, anytime you come together. Um, and so we do communion every week. And long story short, he needed a holder for like 10 communion cups um, for another thing. And so he asked if I could make something for it. I'm like, yeah, I could do that. Right. I've got a set of Forstner bits and a drill press and, all the stuff. And so I found this thick piece of cherry that I had, got it all cleaned up, cut it down. I just made it 12 inches long. And then I laid out, there's something satisfying about, and you probably, I don't know if you noticed it from the pictures I sent you, Tom, but those holes are spaced perfectly. So I took a 7/8 Forstner bit and put 10 holes in this board that little communion cups can sit in. And I um, mapped them out on the wood, perfectly, made a little grid. And then what I like to do with a drill press is, or with if I'm going to drill holes like that, is I have a punch, that you can use to, like, you push down and it clicks, like it punches into wood or whatever. And so I'll line that up and punch, where I want the center of those holes are, because the Forstner bit has a little point on it, and you can easily line up where that is with that center punch. And so, anyways, yeah, I made that. Fun fact: I turned the drill press speed up, and I was just holding it, by hand. Well, cherry, any wood, but cherry dust and chips get really hot. And so I'm holding this piece. I think I sent you the one picture of me holding it on the drill press. And as I'm cutting into making these holes, the dust and the chips are coming out. It's about burning my hand. Cause it's, I got that thing cranking. It's just, and cherry's pretty soft wood, you know, and so I'm able to make them pretty quick. And they're newer Forstner bits. And so, it goes pretty well. But anyways, so yeah, I made this holder, and then I get all the holes cut, and then I route nice chamfer around it and everything like that. I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, this thing needs some handles. Like, you need something to be able to pick it up. It can't just be like a cribbage board, just a flat piece of wood. And so I laid out, basically I had enough space on either end to where I cut out with a table saw, like a 1 inch by 1 inch place where your fingers can come underneath of it and pick it up. And so I got it all sanded, and I was gonna put like a lacquer or something on it. Um, and I thought to myself, I make a really nice finish. I'm just gonna use my finish because, any excuse to use my own finish, and it's so much easier. With that, you don't have to worry as much about the dust and whatnot, and it's, smells good, and so yeah, put finish on it, and then after the finish dried, I put a coat of wax, my finishing wax, over top of it too. It turned out well. So, anyways, that was my shop time. And so, easy, simple project. Took me 45 minutes. But it felt good. I hadn't been in the shop in a while. I used, let's count this. I used miter saw. I used table saw. I used my drill press. I used my sander, my router, put chamfer edges on it. Yeah. And I use my, I've got marking knife, right? So I'm thinking like all this, like a center punch, Forstner bit, like I used a lot of stuff. Like, and I did something I've never done, Tom. You're going to be proud of me for this. I cleaned up when I was done.
Wow.
It's just not a thing for me. But my shop was so clean, it felt so nice that I got done and I had dust everywhere from routing and from the drill press. And I turned the dust collector on and I cleaned everything up and put everything away. And anyways, so yeah,
It's
that's my shop time.
yeah. This is nothing like a clean shop when everything's put away when you get ready to start a project. And so I cannot start a new project if my shop's dirty.
Right.
It just drives me crazy. But yeah, I did get a lot of shop time. I had a lot of bus installs, but I did get a little time, and I was trying to put my laser that I bought into place where I had planned for it. And when I was planning for this, I was going off of the measurements of the machines, the specs on the manufacturer's website, and what I did not take into account was the location of the exhaust port, which is on the back of the machine, and the chiller and air pump. And so where I was planning on putting it, because of how the space I need off the back of the wall in order to run the exhaust port, it was then going to stick out into where I pulled my van in. And I'm like, I can't do that. So I had to come up with a new plan to rearrange some stuff in the shop. And the funny thing is, I planned on doing this, and it's just never gotten around to it. When we first moved in here, I bought some scaffolding because I needed scaffolding to do work on the house. And when I went to get the scaffolding, they had, your basic scaffolding, and then they had what they call their job site workstation scaffolding, and it was on sale. It was like $79 more than the regular, and the only difference is the platform you stand on, you flip it upside down. It had some rails mounted on it, and then you could mount a tool to it, mount a miter saw to it, and then it had
Oh,
and so it has worked extremely well. The problem is my miter saw is always on it, and so when I need my scaffolding, I'm like, what a pain in the butt. I got to take the miter saw off of it and everything. And so I usually end up just grabbing the ladder, doing what I need to do. And, but I had a job recently where I was like, man, it would have been so much faster if I'd have had my scaffolding. And so with the laser not fitting, I was like, you know what? I need to just get this cart built. And I've been planning on making I don't have room enough to build in a permanent miter saw station in my shop. It's just the way everything's laid out. It just, there's one wall I could do it, but it's just not the perfect location. And so I like everything on wheels. The only thing you can't move in my shop is my table saw, my CNC. Everything else is on a mobile base. So I got the cart built, the top, and then got the miter saw mounted to it. But now I'm going to build fold up wings so that it only take up a 4-foot footprint, but then it'll extend up and have long wings out to the right and left. So when I have long, pieces of wood, but yeah, I did that, and then resized a work table in my shop, trying to create a little more space. But yeah, hopefully. And then I worked all weekend. I did a bus wrap Saturday, a bus wrap Sunday. I don't typically work on Sunday. I was trying to I told them I would do 2 on Saturday, and the removal just took too long. I couldn't get 2 of them done. It was just baked on there. And so I got up early, went down there and finished the removal before I went to church. Went to church, served both services, and at church, I don't know if you've ever heard of Victor Marks. Okay, so Victor Marks is running for governor in Colorado next year. but he is a ex-Marine, and he wrote a book called The Dangerous Gentleman, and he was a mentor of Charlie Kirk. And but he came to our church and gave his testimony, and dude, it was awesome. Oh man. And a lot of people knew he was coming to our church, and so it was jam packed both services. But yeah, served, went back, finished that bus, and then this morning I got up, was back there at 6 a.m., did another bus, came home. Me and my daughter finished putting up the Christmas lights, and so now I have no work the rest of the week. We got family coming in on Wednesday. My wife's nieces and her husband and children are coming from Oregon. And then our nephew and his wife and children are coming from they're on the eastern slope of Colorado. So we're going to have all of them, their kids, my wife's sister and her husband, and us and our daughter. So that's going to be a busy weekend, but hopefully I'll get a little bit of shop time because I'm really ready to get my Thunder set up. So,
Yeah.
but I gotta move my table saw in order, and that's time consuming. So that's 4 or 5 hours to disassemble that sucker, move it, and then reassemble it and all.
Yeah.
But, I know it's a pain. I hate to do it, but I don't have a choice. So
Yeah.
it's what it is. But yeah, man.
Very good, man. Well, it's getting late here, and I'm gonna get up early, and we gotta get the last couple of days over with. I took Friday off, which is Black Friday, but we're taking the kids. So I always take Black Friday off because we do Christmas setup in our house, like hang decorations, put the tree up, and that,
Yeah.
But this year we're gonna do that. But the movie Zootopia, I don't know if you ever. It's
Yeah.
the Zootopia 2 comes out in theaters this week.
Oh, okay.
And it'll be the first movie my daughter has ever been to.
Oh, wow.
Theater.
Okay.
My son and I have been to several. And so we're going to go see Zootopia 2 as a family Friday.
That's cool.
So, yeah. Looking forward to that.
We typically do the same thing and do our Christmas, set up Christmas tree, Christmas lights, all that today, but on Friday. But with all the family coming in, we're like, let's go ahead and get that done. So that's why we did it, most of it today, and we'll finish tomorrow. And then that way we could just enjoy family time. Yeah, man. Well, you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving, man.
Yeah, you too. We'll talk at you later. Until next week, I'm Will from Flower Acres.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.